Have you figured out your niche? Are you helping adding value to other people's lives? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Munira's Musings with your host, co-author of Conversations with Top Real Estate Investors Volume 3, Munira Zahabi.
Greetings from Chicagoland. This is Munira. Thank you so much for being on my show. This is Munira's Musings. It's another episode again with a beautiful guest from Switzerland. And so thank you so much for being here with me. I am Munira Zahabi. I am the niche navigator and I help coaches and businesspreneurs find and market to their niche. The reason I do this is because I, for one, have realized that niching is a very important step in your business. Some people are lucky and they find their niche after they start their business. And most people do that. But it takes a lot of frustration, time, money, energy also. So let's help you get niche done. And if you need help, you can always come to me. You can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn. And tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I shall. Let me start. So basically, as you all know already, my name is Dina Ioannou, and I am originally from London. So I was born in London. I grew up in London to Greek Cypriot parents who actually immigrated to London way back then. We're talking about in the late 50s, 60s, because as you may know, Cyprus, they're from Cyprus, was a British colony. And as for who I am and what I do, well, essentially I use my experiences from burnout, and I like to talk about the positive effects of burnout to help people reignite, reevaluate their lives. And this came about way back in 2012 when I had my third, I know I've got the t-shirt like 3 times now, so I got my third t-shirt for I've Burnt Out in 2012, and I realized that I could no longer continue the way that I was continuing my life, which up until that point it was very much getting burnt out, literally, and then just after a while feeling that I was absolutely okay and just bam, going back into work, going back into life without really acknowledging what was going on inside. Okay, and so it's a matter of burning out both physically, psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. So this is the perspective in which I look at burnout. So following the huge burnout in 2012, Munira, I was actually off work for a whole year. It's not nice burning out. I have to honestly say it was not pretty. So I basically just, the flame, let's say it went out. And that's going to make us listen. Yes.
So you bring a good point.
Yes.
I know you may not want to talk about what happened in 2012.
Oh no, I might have to.
Listen to what was happening. We are all burning. You know, that candle is all burning within us. And I don't understand what are the signs that allow you to sit down and say, you know what, if I continue to do this,
I would tell them.
So what are the signs that you know of?
Well, Munira, you know what? There is a list. There's a huge, massive list of signs to look out for. And I actually do have a checklist that if people want to go and check out, they can go onto my website and actually download a checklist, which outlines about 50 different signs that we ignore. So there could be things like starting out with physical symptoms. So if I think about myself, I kept on having these stomach problems. And I'd often go to the doctors who would check me and say, well, there's nothing wrong with you. So the physical symptoms were stomach pains. I thought I just had a bad stomach in terms of, I have to say this going to the toilet quite often, so suffering from diarrhea. I also started to feel the sense of anxiety and also not enjoying. So whereas, how can I put this? For a very long time, my work was my life. And I'm going to say this because I know that there are a lot of people out there who can identify with this. In that, work was my escapism. Work was a place where I felt in myself somehow, okay, something is going right. So I would exert and give 100, 200% of my energy into my work. Whereas what was going on inside, the stuff that I should have been dealing with, I kind of pushed it aside rather than dealing with it. And all these symptoms, like I said, there are 50 symptoms, but they all relate to Freudenberg's 12 phases of burnout. So there are actually 12 phases of burnout that are identified. So stage 1, you've got a compulsion to continuously want to prove yourself. And as high achievers, and when I'm talking about high achiever here, Munira, I'm not talking about someone who's externally successful with all the riches and things of the world because they're doing well and they've got a $2 million, dollar income. We're not talking about these external successes, but we're also talking about internally. And as high achievers, we've also got this need, this compulsion to prove ourselves. So we need to prove ourselves. We need to feel that people identify and are able to value us. It gives us the sense of self-worth, only because we're not looking for it within ourselves, right?
So you bring a good point because, it all starts internally, right? That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Oh, and all of the symptoms that you listed out are symptoms of burnout. Now, you experienced burnout in 2012, and then you went and created a company that says Brilliance to Burnout. Burnout to Brilliance.
Yeah, it's okay. It's actually Lessons in Self is the name of my company. And Burnout to Brilliance by Lessons in Self is a program that is part of Lessons in Self. Now, Lessons in Self, this is what I just need to mention, came as a result of the burnout. So when I burnt out and then I was out from work, I thought to myself, okay, now there is a reason here. Now I'm listening because there's a reason here that I have burnt out. There is a reason here that I have gone through, and we're not going to talk about, but everybody goes through life's experiences. So what is it that I am supposed to be learning from the experience, and what is it that I am supposed to do? So as a result of that, Lessons in Self was born. So the idea was to be able to support people who are just starting out on the journey of life or those going through it. And then Lessons in Self as the main, let's say my main company, Burnout to Brilliance came out as a result of that. Why? Crazy, because last May, I gave a 3-minute pop-up talk at TEDx Basel, and the audience loved it. So they voted me, and I ended up on the main stage, and I gave the talk there. And it was about burnout. It was very much about, it was called a sofa day. So I talk about high achievers. I talked about the symptoms of burnout. And then suddenly, at the end of this talk, oh my gosh, now I know what it feels like to be a superstar. Seriously, Munira. I had people queuing up to talk to me. And they said, oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you for talking about burnout. Thank you for, this was an audience of 800. And that's when Burnout to Brilliance was born, literally. Take my advice. All you need to do is do nothing, is take a sofa day, even if it is, because you say, I don't do movies, I'm just going to sit there and focus on my content. But even if it means sitting on that sofa, okay, don't need to watch a movie, but just having a great mug of tea and a good book and just not doing anything at all, we need to give our bodies, our minds, and our spirits time to recuperate. We just cannot think that we're going to be on this hamster wheel because, like I said, and just thinking about your context, Munira, you've got so much going on at the moment. All right, there's going to come a point when there's only one Munira. And just think, and this is it, we kind of forget, we think that we're invincible, because trust me, that's also the beginning with burnout. You're full of that adrenaline, and we're living on that adrenaline. But trust me, once you do burn out, it takes a very, very long time to get that level of energy back. So that's why I always say to people, don't wait until you burn out, because trust me, you will not get that level of energy back. Because I can speak from my personal experience as well, because you talk about consistency, you talk about perhaps this FOMO, I don't know, this fear of missing out, just in case I'm not on there today, and if I don't post something, what's going to happen? Am I letting people down? But we've got to be true to ourselves. And I've got to be honest, if I feel in myself that I am not in the right state of mind, in the right place, then I'm not going to post. I'm not going to do it, because I just think, well, yes, it's about being consistent, but it's also respecting and acknowledging Dina, because I didn't burn out for no reason. And I can honestly say that when you find that when you do push yourself, like I said, the energy levels are very different now. And unfortunately, I guess it's a bit of a sign for me, when I do get tired or when I have pushed myself, I still have the effects of burnout. So in other words, I slur, I stutter, I get my words mixed up, I'm quite clumsy as well. So there's always these effects that come out. So I know myself and I respect where I can go. And I think for a lot of us, it's also a question of also being able to say no. Because as high achievers, as people that want to do well in our businesses, in our work, with our families, we also have a tendency to think because we're responsible for everything and everybody, and we're not, that we also don't know our own limitations and our boundaries to actually say, do you know what, no.
Made me realize that, we're not invincible. And I'll give you a story to this thing. My husband, he used to work in New York about 30 years ago. And he's got trench coats, everybody wore trench coats, and, it was a style there. He has his coat very articulately kept. And when I check them, they're just they look just as new. And he purchased them because he takes care of them. And I often argue with him, and we do argue about that. It's like, you take care of the coat so well that you didn't take care of your body. And so seeing him has allowed me to take a different perspective, because I matter. If something happened to me today, what's going to happen to everybody else?
Especially when you do burn out, trust me, you've got a stigma for the rest of your life. I see that in my day job where, it's like, oh, she's the person who burnt out. It's great. As a result, I'm working far less, but that's, I can focus on my business. But the point is, you are stigmatized. So I'm just happy that there is now a platform for people to talk about mental health issues. I do not shy away from it. That's also something I want people to know. We can go through life with these issues. We can go through life, even with burnout, going through burnout. Because like I said, it's a slow process. That's something that people need to realize out there. Burnout does not happen overnight.
So that's an awareness that's coming up. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. You have just opened up our eyes, even though sometimes even though you're aware of all of this, you still need somebody to push it back in and say, you know what, take a moment. It's like having a teacher or a parent behind you and saying, just take a moment because you matter.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you go. This has been a very wonderful conversation with Dina, because the thing is, don't burn out. Don't let yourself burn out. Even though we know the side effects, we know what's happening, we still turn blind eye and, don't listen to it, but let your body tell you, or in fact, don't let the body tell you till it's too late. Just start taking those steps that she mentioned about meditation, stretching, writing journal, affirmations, write those steps a little bit at a time and take steps to become the brilliant person that you are, avoid burnout.
And can I just, before we quickly go, can I just end this? I know you usually end it, but I just want to end with one little message from a writer called Dina Ioannou, who wrote about the joy of burnout. And I just want to finish with this message. She says that burnout is the state of mind, body, and spirit reached by those of us who have come to an end of a particular road.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Munira's Musings with your host, Munira Zahabi.
So much for
If you enjoyed our show, please share and subscribe to this channel. And for more content, please join our Facebook group called Navigate to Your Niche.